without you being in my life, I probably wouldn't be where I am in my life. And I say that very wholeheartedly because you were a big part of my childhood. So for the better, even all through the crazy shit, for the better. Welcome, everybody, once again to Retire.Army, where we dig into retirement journeys of military members all around the world. Today, I'm very, very happy and pleased to have one of my really, really good friends from high school. We've known each other for quite a long time, 92, 93, somewhere in there is when we met. And we were kind of inseparable for a while. And then we parted ways and went into I went into the military. He went in afterwards, joined in 2003. And he is now currently retired as a first sergeant, 68 Romeo in San Antonio JBSA. And today we're going to dig into his story and get to know a little bit more about Steve Buick. So Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, John. I know I've been putting you off for a few months, but I knew I was going to get around doing this, so glad to be here.
No problem, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you taking the time. I know this is a very big time commitment. But I think it's going to be good for both of us. I think we'll both get something good out of it. So let me start off and ask you, and I know you've only been retired for just a short amount of time, but you did have some leave time in there, so you probably got some time to relax a little bit and get comfortable. What does your morning routine look like now versus when you were every day, 5 days a week in uniform?
Well, I can honestly say, I'm currently not working right now, but I'm chomping at the bit to get back to work. I miss that structured environment. But, since I've been retired and I did that internship, my internal alarm clock has dissipated a lot. I can tell you that much. I'm able to sleep a little better. So my routine, I really don't have a routine right now, but I can tell you it's nice not having that internal alarm clock. I was always anxious, chop at the bit to get to work every day for 20 years. And that's why I got to the rank where I am.
Now that you've fully completed the retirement process, let's just go back actually to the beginning when you first came in the military. Like, can you give us a time and place where you were mentally, emotionally, when you decided to pull the trigger and join the military?
After high school, I did some odd jobs, and then I was like, I got to do something. So I did a couple years of community college, got my associate's degree in hotel restaurant management. Right beginning of 2000, did some restaurant jobs, and I was like, this isn't for me. I was 25, 26, and I was like, you know what, I got to do something. And I don't think I really have it in me to go attend 2 or 3 years of college, with people 7 or 8 years younger than me. And I was like, you know what, let's try the military, So my degree was in hotel restaurant management, and the Army had food safety. So they were somewhat interrelated. And I jumped on it. And that was, I went into the TAP program in September of 2002. I just walked into the recruiter's office and signed up that day, and they took me the MEPS. I went into TAP, and then a couple months later, off to Fort Benning.
Yeah, and I want to ask actually, and I know I have a little bit of an advantage since I know you fairly well. I want to ask how much of an influence it was from your dad from the military side. I mean, I know your background, your family is very military oriented. Was there any influence on that side, or was that kind of one of those things that were like, yeah, I don't really want to join the military, but then at some point you were like, you know what, maybe it makes sense?
It took me a while. I wasn't mature until early 20s. I'll give you that. It took a little time to set in, and that realization came upon me. And you know what, there was some influence from my father. And when I joined, like, our relationship became so much better. We were always butting heads, from my teenage years and on. But you know what? We're good friends, talk all the time, and there's no angst between us.
It's interesting how that works out, right?
It is. I mean, life's too short, so.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm glad you guys got to reconnect. It's a nice way to reconnect, having that common bond of the military. And that's why I wanted to ask that question.
And he's right up the road in Dallas, so 5-hour drive, but Texas is a big state. So.
Can you tell me about your retirement process from the time you started to like switch your brain over to, hey, I'm going to retire, I need to start prepping? How did that look like, and how much time did you give yourself? And what were some of the surprises, stumbling blocks like in the road as you made your way down that path?
My wife is medically retired. She just was medically retired this fall. So that, we both left Fort Knox. It was like one more assignment. I just completed my first sergeant duty. It was like San Antonio is the place to be. Um, she got an MEB initiated and was out. So she wanted to stay in, but it worked out. We both essentially got out at the same time. So we're here. We don't have to move if we don't want to. But yeah, I'd say like the last year of being a first sergeant, I was like 20 and done. That's a pretty draining job. And yeah, I'd say about 17 years in is like one more assignment done, have some civilian longevity. And we made the choice to finish out here.
So was your wife also medical services, or is she a different MOS?
Yeah, she's a 68 Sierra, and she's actually got a job now. She's going to be working with the ministries of San Antonio to help with the homeless.
We should have brought her on the show. We could have had her here. We could have did the husband and wife show.
Yeah, well, you know what? I can set up an appointment, have her on with you. She's more of a social butterfly than I am, anyway. So.
How was the SFL TAP process for you, and was there anything that stood out in your mind that was really exceptional?
I had a great command here, and they were all for it. They could have easily said, "Oh, we need you here. Like, you do everything for us. But they had the mindset like, hey, there's going to be the Army's going to drive on with or without you. The unit's going to drive on. So I had a great command, and like I said, the SFL TAP folks at Fort Sam are outstanding.
Any particular part of SFL TAP that you really, really enjoyed? Like, I know you mentioned hiring our heroes was one program that you signed up for, but anything else that stood out from the SFL TAP side?
You know, uh, since I was retiring as a first sergeant, I didn't have to go through all the little classes like a specialist getting out after a couple of years. So my main thing was like, hey, it'd be nice to have a job or do an internship. So I concentrated on the hiring our heroes or skill bridge, and that program was in skill bridge. So
You said you had some issues, not issues, but your command was really good and worked with you. Did you see that across the command for people getting out, like maybe people not retiring who had to go through transition process? Because I know that always comes up as a topic of like, how do you separate yourself from the work, and how do you put that barrier between you and the work, and also how do you get the support of your command to allow you to go do those things, to sign up for skill bridge, to give you the space to actually transition?
right. So the command and I sat down, had a talk, and was like, they drew a date for me to kind of start gradually weaning off the work, and like a date to turn in the government phone. So it wasn't like all at once, like, here you go, here's my job, good luck. It was a gradual process over a month or so with NCO underneath me.
And were you able to like personally separate yourself from the work? Like, was that difficult? Because I know for me, I went up to like literally the last 6 months I was working full steam, and then at some point I had to tell myself like, hey, you need to stop and like concentrate and do this retirement thing.
Yeah, I'd say for a little while it was, but my sergeant major was like, "Hey, you gotta let go." And then, like I said, that month helped me out a lot, rather than just like full steam, like you said, and just walk away. So a gradual weaning off, works wonders.
Were there any things that you noticed in that last 2 or 3 years that you thought were maybe super important that weren't actually so important, or even the converse of that, of things that you thought weren't so important that then became that you realized that they were actually more important than anything else?
Well, I tell you, after being a first sergeant, your main priority is taking care of soldiers. Whether it's supervision, leading, or their overall welfare. I'd say the last few years, when I got to Fort Sam and knowing I was going to apply for retirement, it was basically helping others that were thinking about the same and kind of mentoring them. on things, whether they were getting out or not. But just focusing on those, because after leaving as a first sergeant, and going to an ops position, I only had two NCOs underneath me, so kind of spending more time one on one. And then, I did have a difficult time letting go being a first sergeant when it came to ops, because you're kind of hands off. Like, you manage things, but you're not, I don't want to say a leader, but you're not like authoritative disciplinarian and overall trainer. You're just a data collector essentially in ops and kind of push out orders for the commander. So I did have a hard time letting go for a good year.
Was there like a legacy or some kind of like broader impact that you wanted to leave behind in the course of your whole military career? Like, was there something in the back of your mind, or maybe some kind of North Star that you like to keep in focus that was the legacy that you wanted to leave behind once you left the military?
Not so much a legacy, but just wanted people to say, after I retired, like, gosh, we miss him. Hard worker, and I can honestly say that, I've got great references from colonels that I worked with, and, just a hard worker.
Yeah, I know you worked hard. It takes a lot of effort to get to that position in the military, especially coming in later in life. 2026, I think you said.
Believe it or not, there was 4 guys older than me in my basic training platoon.
Yeah, I mean, I came in as a spring chicken, so it was like 19 when I came in.
If I would have joined at 18, I probably wouldn't have made it 2 years. I would have got kicked out or something.
Did you get a chance to take part in the benefits delivery discharge thing, or no?
I didn't partake in that, but like I said, I would tell folks, like, their last 3 years in, don't wait for the 2 years. If you know you're at your final assignment and you're going to drop retirement, prepare well in advance, especially if you got records that are binders and binders.
Yeah, I really sit on the fence about it.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, and I know I'm not going to be popular with my answer, but I see folks with 100%, and I'm like, there's no way.
If you're one to not go to, and I'm the same way. I didn't go to the doctor for a lot of different things, just because I just don't like doctors. I don't like sitting in the office and waiting 3 hours and going through this process of sick call or whatever it happened to be. I had a really bad taste with it early on, so
I don't really have much to say about the VA process. Sorry.
You might not have much to say about this process either. Have you ever taken advantage or taken any space age travel during your time?
I personally did not. I know a lot of people that did. So I was stationed in Guam. So with my MOS, we're the DoD executive agent. So we can be stationed on Navy, Air Force, Marine bases around the world. So in Guam, I know a lot of people did use that. I never did. I did an MWR trip to Australia, but I never did the space age travel. But I will tell you, after, being in Guam and talking with the soldiers there when I was there, that you have to have a lot of leave saved up, because you never, if you don't get on one flight, then the next flight might be 4 days. You might get stranded somewhere. But that's the I guess the pain about it is the unknown if you're actually going to leave, or you got to wait. You got to go back home and then come back to the terminal.
Yeah, space is a little tricky. But yeah, being in Guam, I would imagine that would be one of the main ways to get off the island, other than paying like, $1,000 or whatever it is to get.
Oh, yeah.
So let me shift gears real quick and kind of go in a slightly left direction. And I like to ask this question because I like to get a little bit of perspective, the maturity perspective after being in the military for 20 plus years and achieving retirement. If you had the opportunity to go back and sit down and have a chat with your 16-year-old self about anything, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be something like deeply introspective or anything like that, but just literally just having like a 20 or 30 minute time frame to chat with your 16-year-old self. And excluding things like, you should go buy Apple stock and invest in this. Where would you be meeting your 16-year-old self? Like, what time and place, and what would the conversation look like?
First off, slow down. Life, it's a marathon. You know, time flies once you become an adult, but, as you're a teenager, you're thinking, oh, I got to do everything now, and blah, blah, blah. I wasn't mature at all. If I could talk to myself, I would, gosh, I wish I could talk to myself. It's just when I was a 16-year-old. Life would have been so much more different for me. But, that's with everybody. Um, but just to start aligning goals, the smart process, goals in life, just start on those, as a teenager, at least for me, I didn't have any goals, I didn't really have any structure. I was, parents had gone through a divorce and I was kind of lost, I guess I should say. And, I would just develop goals and, yeah.
It's a good answer. I like that. Yeah, it's a tough question, and that's why I pick it, because it's a tough question, and it really but it's good. I think it's good. So let me switch over to modern day Steve, retired from the military Steve, thinking about the future and future career Steve. How do you feel about the role of mentorship and mentors in business in general? And do you have any mentors now currently that you lean on, or anybody that you've met over the last 40 plus years who you can look at as a mentor and say that person really like impacted my life greatly?
Yeah, I do have a few mentors, and they're both sergeant majors. Go figure. But yeah, one was a hard ass, but wow, like instilled a lot in me, perfection. And yeah, that Sergeant Major Medina, 68 Sierra, he really mentored me a lot, and he was kind of abrasive to many, but I liked his overall leadership style. And there are what was curious to me is going in this internship at New York Life. It was I was just so curious to see how corporate interacts with each other and how they go about their daily routine. Just to be honest with you, I sat back and observed a lot my first few weeks just because it was new to me. I was like, wow, this is so different. But you can definitely JJ Ramirez, the top executive partner here at San Antonio New York Life, #2 in the country, by the way. This guy, he could have been a freaking commander in the military. Just outstanding. So there are mentors in every aspect of business, military, school, what have you. But it was interesting to see after 20 years in the military, stepping into the civilian side. It was interesting.
Was there anything that you gleaned from, you say JJ was his name, right? Then San Antonio. Is there anything that you in that observation period, what kind of things like stood out to you as some of the traits or things that you might have noticed?
The ability to talk and sell and just the knowledge base. And, I was thinking like applying that into the military, like he would have been outstanding.
Yeah, unfortunately, the more we move forward in this path of life, and the more that the world starts to change and adapt, and we start to get things like augmented reality and AI and the metaverse and remote work after 2 years of COVID, it's interesting that we all kind of have to be salesmen in a certain way, like not necessarily selling a product, but becoming your own kind of entity. And it leads into a question that I want to ask about personal brand, and if you've done anything along the lines of setting up a personal brand, and do you think it's important now more than it was maybe 20 years ago?
I can honestly say, I never really had a personal brand. I was a leader that spoke with my actions more than words. But you know what? It was received, reciprocally 100% all the way around. So I wouldn't necessarily say I had a branding, like I didn't have a slogan or like anything like that.
And now moving forward, do you think Even if it's just like a LinkedIn profile, like setting up your LinkedIn profile in a certain way or anything like that. Do you feel like that's something that you're going to need to leverage moving forward in your search of jobs or careers or anything like that?
It depends if I get a USA job. But like, yeah, if I have to go in the civilian market, I'm going to have to adjust it. I did set a LinkedIn up with New York Life when I was doing my internship and all that. But I really haven't thought about that. I imagine I will. Unless I get into the civilian service sector.
Why would you choose the civilian like GS role over an outside external civilian position?
Probably because I miss the environment. Not so much the um, being a soldier, but just that environment. It's hard to explain. It's hard to let go. Even though I did that internship, but I miss it. I would love to work for the military again. Uh, it's really hard to explain, but there's structure, there's security.
And that's actually one of my questions too, is like, what do you miss the most about? I mean, I know you've only been off of active duty for a very short amount of time, but I'm sure it's probably already started to have an impact on you as far as being away from uniform and being away from being around soldiers and a top NCO. Like, that's your job, is to be around soldiers and to nurture them and mentor them and bring them through the ranks. Like, what do you miss the most about the military right now?
Structure. I get stir crazy not having my own schedule. I need to get a hobby until I get a job. But I'm just like wake up, have coffee, look at the news, play with the dogs, and then it's kind of like I'm going stir crazy. So I gotta get a job here shortly.
I mean, so if there wasn't any, like there is now, if there's no obligation, really, no kind of structure or anything like that, like what could you imagine? Like, if you could just pick whatever you wanted to pick out of anything, not even career wise, but just anything, like if you wanted to start doing woodwork or something like that, what would you actually like, what would you do?
So you're asking me what I want to be when I grow up?
Yeah, anything.
You know, probably sports talk, announcer, radio, or a race car driver, maybe like yourself.
Yeah, I really want to be a race car driver when I grow up. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I think you actually, so now that we've like unpacked that a little bit, I think you actually do have the demeanor, the voice, the character for doing broadcast type stuff. I really do. You've got the look for it. You've got just the presence, the aura of being able to do that.
Yeah, it's just a matter. Do I want to go back to school?
Or you could do another internship.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's like I said, that's a wish, but I don't know. But as far as a race car driver, I'd love to do that too. I'm not as obviously as crazy as I was years ago, as you know, but I'm pretty calm when it comes to that. But it'd be a fun job.
Yeah, I mean they have. You've heard of the SCCA, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They have those local plate. I mean, you have to have a car, of course, and cars are getting expensive, especially the old ones, the ones that we used to have. try to get a super turbo now and see if you don't spend anything less than $30,000 for it.
That's crazy.
If you had the opportunity to give like a TED Talk kind of speech or a short like commencement to a group of transitioning military members, let's say 20 minutes, 30 minutes max, what would the thesis of that talk be? Like, what would you say to them?
Gosh, I wish you would ask what I would say to new recruits or people that want to join the military. But
Well, let's do that.
so I would say, if there's, teenagers, young adults want to join the military, I would say, you are given this great opportunity. Take advantage of it. I'm not, when I joined, I didn't have the mindset, oh, I'm going to do 20 years. Like, yeah, I re-enlisted 5 or 6 times. Believe it or not, I did a 2-year enlistment. Oh, let's see how this goes. And, I wound up re-enlisting again, got my bachelor's degree while in. And then it was like, oh, I'm over 10, got to re-enlist again. Had to re-up because I made the master sergeant list, so I had to re-enlist like basically what I think 15 years in again. So I would just tell new recruits or those want to join, it's a process. But the military is such a great opportunity. Like so many great things about it: education, healthcare, commissary. The no taxes at commissaries and the exchanges and all that. You get to travel the world. You get to meet new people from all over the world. It's a melting pot. Like you said, being in Central Illinois, if you want to stick around, and I'm not dogging, Central Illinois, but town of 5,000, half of them don't even get out of the town during their life. So it's a great opportunity, and I have no regrets. I cannot say anything bad about the military. Yeah, there was some tough days, obviously, but I had great overall leaders just about every assignment. Just a great opportunity, and when the recruiters, I wasn't a recruiter, but gosh, I wish I could take some of these kids that were going through some hard times, like myself, and just kind of steer them to the right side of life.
Maybe you will. Maybe that little speech will reach somebody out there. You never know.
And let's face it, some kids, teenagers, young adults in these communities, like they're not afforded the opportunities, outside the military that we had, and I met somebody basic training that didn't even wear tennis shoes. They were from Samoa, I believe, and AIT or basic training was the first time they had a pair of sneakers.
As far as the transitioning members, the ones that are getting out, whether it's because of medical reasons, because of pregnancy, or because they're retiring, or because they just decided they want to get out and they've done what they wanted to do, what would be your words of wisdom to them?
I mean, you don't have to have a plan. Obviously, you retire, you get a pension, and you're not necessarily scrounging for pennies, but have a plan. Because I'm going stir crazy. I did my internship with New York Life, and that was fine and dandy. Got some certifications and saw kind of what the civilian corporate world was like. But I got to start drawing out a plan. Have a plan. Like if you're not going to work right away, like go to school. I guess you can take advantage of that stipend, after you retire for the next higher level degree. But have a plan, have a hobby. I'm twiddling my thumbs a lot. I got to get a job.
Well, I mean, we can always hop on a call once a week and without recording stuff and sit and chat too. That's definitely an option. I'll extend that out to you for sure. I mean, without you being in my life, I probably wouldn't be where I am in my life. And I say that very wholeheartedly because you were a big part of my childhood. So, and I'm glad that you're still here for the better, even all through the crazy shit, for the better. Yeah, I'm glad we're still connected, and we're still here to talk.
Yeah, I should have probably been dead by the time I was 18.
That was my same sentiment.
Stupid stuff I did.
So you mentioned school, going back to school after retiring. How important has college education been to you in your career, and then further on, like leaving and transitioning and going into maybe civilian life or even a GS job? How important is that to you, and how impactful has that been for you?
Right. So I joined with an associate's degree, like I said, in hotel restaurant management. And then I went back to school in 2006 while I was deployed, and then year by year took a couple classes and ultimately got my bachelor's degree. But you know what? Besides you know, getting a degree for a promotion or promotion points and this and that. It's about self development and, developing your overall knowledge and, your interest in something. Education is important besides job and, like I said, job and promotion. It's about your own personal self development for your own knowledge sake.
What are you planning on going back to school for?
So I have a bachelor's in health science education. So I would probably lean towards nutrition, performance nutrition. And I know Auburn and Alabama have a couple of the better quality programs.
So still down that kind of medical path.
Yeah, but I got to get back to work. I know I keep saying I got to get back to work, but like,
Do you read a lot of books?
I don't, but I do. I am going to purchase a book that I saw on Amazon the other day. I'm going to actually buy it today. It's called This Civilian Shit is Hard, From the Cockpit, Cubicle, and Beyond. So I imagine it was written by a pilot. His name is Dan Bozung, Bozung. Again, it's called This Civilian Shit is Hard, From the Cockpit, Cubicle, and Beyond. And it's like $10 on Kindle, $12 to $15 paperback. So I'm going to order that today.
Yeah, the title is amazing. And the subtitle.
Word shit is, asterisked out. But
What's that book? The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. that's another good one with a great title. Cool. You gonna start diving into books? Because once you go down that rabbit hole of reading, it starts to like as you see behind me. This is what happens when you start reading books.
almost as many as my dad.
That, and then you spend like, if you're like me, I like to consume audiobooks as well. So like if I go take a drive or if I go on a trip or somewhere, like I'll plow through like 13 or 15 hours of a book just driving across the country.
Yeah, I think I will start reading a few books just to stay sane.
I have a great one for you. Let me pull it up. This is one you might want to add to your list as your second book. Let me get the title for you real quick and the author. I just actually started reading it the other day, and it's fantastic. So the book is called Falling Upward by Richard Rohr, Rohr, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes as well. Yeah, it's a fantastic book. It's a book that kind of it splits up life into the two, like the front part of life and the back part of life, and it's not necessarily like at 40 or at your midlife where you kind of make that flip. It's what you mentioned actually before about maturity level and not maturing till a little bit later in life. I did the same. Like I just started to act like an adult maybe a few years ago, but but then I wear t-shirts like this. So, but yeah, it dives into how the first part of life, being curious and going out and experimenting and trying things and learning about life from the child perspective is very important. And then at some point you have to make that transition over to the other side. And he kind of talks about how people sometimes like put that off because they're just afraid or they don't want to deal with the ramifications of being an adult or take on adult responsibilities or stuff like that. It's a really good book. It's an amazing book. Something to keep you busy. So let me ask a really off the wall, oddball question, and maybe it'll resonate, maybe not. If you had the opportunity to invest $10 million into something that you were super, super passionate about that maybe nobody knows that you're passionate about, what would that be? And it doesn't have to be a one-time like $10 million. You could split it across a couple things if you want, but generally like a big amount of money towards something that you're super, super passionate about.
And you want like charity type programs or something of that nature?
It could be anything. It could be saving whales. It could be, it could also be, buying a whatever. Like it could be anything.
You know, when I did my capstone, like final project for my degree, I had to pick, you know, a stigma type problem and develop a health promotion plan. All right, and I picked obesity, and I picked the poorest county in the entire nation, and I had to research like an actual real county in this and that, and I would say to invest in programs where people don't have access to certain things, whether it be food security, you know, parks, playgrounds, this and that, and that's obviously in the poorer communities. But I just even if it made a difference in only a few lives, like just the impact of those less fortunate, and you know, because there are great minds out there that are developing and that'll sadly never get the opportunity. You know, so I would like to find a community that is in dire need. You know, it'd probably be a smaller community and just have all types of programs and health programs, athletic programs.
It's really nice. I like that. It's a good answer. What was this? What was this county that you were researching?
It was, gosh, this was 2016. I know it was in Northeast Louisiana and at the highest obesity rate because I had to develop a program over 5 years and my stakeholders and this and that to get a reduction in that. And I know it was a county in Northeast Louisiana that bordered Arkansas and Mississippi, I believe, where the median income of a family of four was only $23,000.
Jesus. Yeah, it's a really good cause. I like that. I like bringing everybody up to at least a comfortable level of living beyond the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like out of that kind of.
And obviously, $10 million wouldn't do anything in a big city such as San Antonio. That's why I said a smaller community, so where you could actually see the change visually rather than through data. You know.
Did you get yourself, or did anybody else get you a retirement gift at all, or was that not even a thought?
You know, I didn't want a retirement ceremony, and we were going to do a semi-formal one, and then my dad and his wife were going to drive down. She unfortunately came down with bronchitis, so we had to postpone that. Another day didn't work, and I was like, you know, let's just do a luncheon. And they're waiting for me to get back to my luncheon because I'm not a limelight type of person. I don't like being in the spotlight. So they still have my gift. I know what it is. It's a nice shadow box. So, but I didn't get like a retirement gift like here's $10 million.
Yeah, I was the same way. I've met both sides of the coin, like people that really go all out for a retirement ceremony and people that just like, I don't want a retirement ceremony, don't give me anything, don't make a surprise party, don't bring me nothing. Like I just want to get my paperwork and go.
The nicest gift, you know, in my career was actually having young soldiers like out of the blue, like come up and thank you. There's nothing better than that. Like you made an impact. Like that's the best gift there is, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I asked the question because I'm just curious and I just want to know. Sometimes I get some interesting answers like the one you just gave me. That's really good.
I mean, I did kind of grade my car late summer just because I got a good deal on it.
But not specifically for retirement.
No, it's not a Ferrari or anything.
I'm going to retire. I'm buying a Corvette.
Yeah, not quite that.
This was pretty quick and easy. Oh, I want to ask you about your pets. You said you have dogs. How many dogs do you have?
Yeah, so we got 2 dogs right now. They're pit bull lab mixes. Tommy and Bella. They're both rescues. Bella's a Parvo survivor, and Tommy was a runaway in Louisville.
What is a Parvo survivor? I don't know what that is.
I try to explain it. It's a communicable disease between pets. It's almost like, I don't want to some veterinarians are going to watch this and kill me because I'm not going to give the right answer. Because I've worked in the veterinary public health command, but it's communicable disease that's highly, it's very deadly. Like 60-70% don't survive. It's almost like a really, really bad flu.
So just two, huh?
We had Bella we got her on Veterans Day of 2018, and Tommy we got in Louisville, Wild Knox, from a rescue.
Any other animals that you want to add into the mix eventually, like chickens, goats, anything?
Yeah, maybe some chickens or a miniature. What's that thing called?
Miniature goats.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Cool, man. Well, that's really all I got. I'm going to be respectful of your time and give you as much time back as I can. I don't want to take, 3 or 4 hours. And
You're good, John. All I'm going to do is get on USA Jobs and go on Indeed and maybe tweak my resume. So,
is there anything that we may not have covered that you would like to cover, or anything that I missed, or any final thoughts that you would have?
I would just tell those that are, they're hell bent on retiring, or if they've got an MEB, probably about to initiate, is like, don't sit back and just kind of coast along. Say, do everything for yourself. The Army's going to drive on.
Where would people find you if they wanted to find you online? Like if they wanted to reach out, or if they want to find you, or if somebody's potentially hiring and they want to reach out to you, where would you point them to?
You can find me on LinkedIn. Stephen Buick. They'll see my name there. Bravo, Uniform Yankee, Charlie Kilo. Sounds like the car, but not quite.
I'll make sure to put your LinkedIn information, contact information in the notes below.
Yeah. And then there's not many Steve Buicks. If there are some, they're probably in Belgium. And I'm in San Antonio. So.
Well, I really, really appreciate you taking the time today. And I'm glad we get to catch up a little bit. And I'm glad we could do this interview. It's been a pleasure for me. And for everybody out there in the world watching, all 67 of you, be sure to make sure you check out the show notes below. We'll put links to anything that we talked about. And there are also timestamps throughout. So if you want to skip around, or if you want to put it on 1.25x or 1.5x to listen to it, because I know we talk a little bit slower, feel free to do that. It'll sound exactly the same. It'll just be shorter. So thank you for everybody out there watching and listening. Thank you, Steve, for spending your time with me today and doing this interview. And until next time, we will talk to you all later.
Hey, thanks, John. Appreciate it. Have a good one.